The air in Dust Heaven's sublevel market reeked of desperation and chemical sanitizer, a combination that Marcus Webb had grown far too familiar with over the past 6 months. He stood at the back of the crowd, arms crossed over his worn jacket, watching the auction platform with hollow eyes. The holographic display above the stage flickered between galactic standard credits and various trade goods, none of which he could afford. His freight hauler, the Meridian, sat docked 3 levels above with a cracked hyperdrive manifold and enough debt notices to wallpaper the cargo hold. The job on Epsilon Station had fallen through his 3rd failed contract in 2 months, and now the creditors were circling like carrion birds. He needed help, someone to assist with the routes, manage the cargo, maybe even handle basic repairs. But legitimate crew cost money, and money was something Marcus hadn't seen in abundance since his father died, and left him nothing but a ship and a mountain of bad decisions. The auctioneer, a hulking Vronnet with translator implants, gestured toward a reinforced cage being wheeled onto the platform. Next lot, Chelistari female, approximately 22 standard years. No skills declared, basic health screening completed. Starting bid, 500 credits. Marcus felt his stomach turn. He'd sworn he'd never stoop this low, never participate in the slave trade that flourished in the outer colonies, where coalition law was nothing but a distant suggestion. But 500 credits was less than he'd spent on engine coolant last month. If he could get someone to help him complete just 1 successful run, he could pay them fairly, maybe even sponsor their freedom papers. That's what he told himself anyway. The crowd remained silent. No one wanted a Chelistari. Their species was rare out here. Their homeworld quarantined after the Cascade Plague had ravaged their population a decade ago. Most people assumed they were all infected, dying, or both, for 100. The auctioneer dropped the price, sounding annoyed. "Do I hear for 100? Marcus looked at the cage. Through the gaps in the crowd, he caught a glimpse of pale blue skin, dark hair that seemed to shimmer with an iridescent quality, and eyes gods. Those eyes that stared out at the crowd with something beyond fear. Resignation, maybe. Or worse, acceptance. 300. Final offer before we move to the render lots. The render lots. Marcus's hands balled into fists. They'd kill her, process her for whatever biological materials could be salvaged and sold to pharmaceutical companies. The practice was technically illegal, but out here on Dust Haven, illegal just meant expensive. 300, Marcus heard himself say, his voice cutting through the murmur of the crowd. The auctioneer's eyes found him, evaluating. 300 to the human in the back. Anyone else? A pause. Sold, lot 47 to bidder to 18. Collect your purchase at processing station 7. Marcus pushed through the crowd, ignoring the looks from other buyers. His hands trembled as he pressed his credit chit against the scanner at the processing station. The attendant, a bored-looking human woman with more cybernetic implants than original parts, barely glanced at him. Subcutaneous tracker is already installed, she said, shoving a datapad toward him. Standard 30-day warranty on vital functions. After that, she's your problem. Sign here, here, and here. He signed without reading, his mind racing. What had he just done? 300 credits was 300 credits he didn't have to spare. If this didn't work out, if she couldn't help him, he'd be even deeper in the hole. The attendant pressed her palm against a panel, and a door slid open. Cage 47. She's all yours. Marcus walked into the holding area, a narrow corridor lined with cages of various sizes. Some contained supplies, others held beings from a dozen different species, all waiting to be collected by their new owners. He found cage 47 near the end. She was smaller than he'd expected, curled in the corner with her arms wrapped around her knees. Her skin was the color of a winter sky just before dawn, pale blue with undertones of silver that caught the harsh fluorescent lighting. She wore nothing but a thin gray shift that hung off her angular frame. She looked fragile, breakable, like something that had already been broken and poorly mended. "Hey," Marcus said softly, crouching down to her level. I'm Marcus. I'm going to get you out of here." She lifted her head, and he saw her face fully for the first time. High cheekbones, a delicate nose, lips that were a darker shade of blue than her skin. But it was her eyes that stopped him, large and luminous. colored like deep amber with flecks of gold, framed by dark lashes. They looked at him with an intelligence that made him feel suddenly ashamed of the entire transaction. The cage door clicked open as the attendant remotely unlocked it. Marcus reached out his hand, palm up, non-threatening. "Can you walk?" She stared at his hand for a long moment, then slowly unfolded herself from the corner. She was taller than he'd thought, nearly his height, but she moved like every joint hurt. She ignored his offered hand and stepped out of the cage on her own, her bare feet silent on the cold floor. "All right," Marcus said, withdrawing his hand and standing. "Let's go home." He turned and started walking, assuming she would follow. After a moment, he heard her footsteps behind him, light and hesitant. They made their way through the processing station, back into the main market, and toward the lift that would take them to the docking levels. In the lift, pressed close together in the cramped space, Marcus finally got a good look at her. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her breathing seemed labored. Each inhale a conscious effort. Her hands, delicate with long fingers, trembled slightly at her sides. "Are you sick?" he asked, the question coming out more blunt than he'd intended. She looked at him, those amber eyes searching his face. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. The words shaped carefully and accented standard, "dying." The single word hit Marcus like a physical blow. The lift doors opened onto the docking level, but he stood frozen, staring at her. "What?" She stepped out of the lift, turning back to look at him. "You bought dying slave. They sell me cheap because I am dying. You were cheated." She said the last word with something that might have been bitter amusement. Marcus followed her out, his mind reeling. "How long?" She shrugged, the gesture somehow elegant despite her weakened state. "Weeks, maybe month. The sickness has no cure. My people, we accept it. That's why you were so cheap," Marcus said, the pieces falling into place. They knew. That's why no one else bid. "Yes." She stood in the corridor, waiting for him to lead the way, looking like she might collapse at any moment. "I am sorry you wasted your credits. Where would you like me to die?" "I will try not to make trouble." The matter-of-fact way she said it, the complete absence of self-pity, broke something in Marcus's chest. He'd come here looking for a solution to his problems, looking for cheap labor, looking for a way out of his own mess. Instead, he'd bought a dying woman who apologized for inconveniencing him. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, as if the question surprised her. "Venya. My name is Venya." "Venya," Marcus repeated. He looked at her, really looked at her, seeing not a purchase or a solution, but a person. A person who had been sold like cargo, who expected nothing but a place to die, who apologized for existing. "Come on, the ship's this way, and you're not going to die. We'll figure something out." For the first time, something shifted in her expression. Not hope, it was too soon for hope, but perhaps the faintest possibility that death might not be inevitable. She nodded once and followed him down the corridor toward the Meridian. Marcus didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't know how to save her, didn't know if it was even possible. But as they walked through the flickering lights of Dusthaven's docking level, he made himself a promise. He would try. Whatever it took, he would try. He'd bought her expecting a tool. Instead, he'd found someone who'd already given up. And something about that, about her quiet acceptance of death, her concern for inconveniencing him even as her own life slipped away, made him want to fight for her. Even if she wouldn't fight for herself, the Meridian waited ahead, its hull scarred and patched but still space-worthy. Home, such as it was. Marcus pressed his palm to the access panel, and the cargo ramp lowered with a pneumatic hiss. "Welcome aboard," he said, gesturing for Venya to enter first. "It's not much, but it's safe. And whatever time you have left, whether it's weeks or months or, God's willing, yours, you'll spend it as a free person. I promise you that." Venya paused at the bottom of the ramp, looking up at the ship, then back at Marcus. Her amber eyes glistened with something that might have been tears, though they didn't fall. "Why?" she asked simply. "Why do you care?" Marcus didn't have a good answer. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was his own loneliness reflected in her resignation. Maybe it was just that someone needed to care, and he happened to be there. "Because everyone deserves to matter to someone," he finally said. "Even me, even you. Especially you." She studied him for another long moment. then nodded and walked up the ramp into the Meridian. Marcus followed, the cargo bay door closing behind them with a solid thunk that felt like a commitment. He had no idea how he was going to save her, but standing there in the dim cargo bay, watching Venya look around at her new surroundings with cautious wonder, Marcus realized something. She'd already saved him, in a way, saved him from becoming the Meridian's medical bay was barely worthy of the name. A converted storage closet, with a diagnostic bed, a first aid station, and equipment that had seen better decades. Marcus guided Venya to the bed, its cushioning cracked and patched with repair tape, and gestured for her to sit. "Let me run a scan," he said, reaching for the handheld diagnostic unit. Maybe the slavers were wrong. Maybe it's something treatable. Venya sat obediently, her hands folded in her lap. "They were not wrong. I know my body. I feel the fade, what my people call it, the dimming. Like a star going cold." She touched her chest. "Here, it spreads. Soon it will reach my heart, my mind." Then nothing. Marcus ran the scanner over her, watching the holographic display populate with data he barely understood. Elevated toxin levels, cellular degradation, immune system collapse. The readout painted a grim picture. He set the device down, frustration building in his chest. There has to be something. Medicine, treatment, a specialist somewhere. Marcus, the way she said his name, soft and final, made him stop. "You seem like good person. Do not spend credits you do not have trying to save me. Use them for your ship, your life. I have made peace with this." "Well, I haven't," he snapped, then immediately regretted his tone. "I'm sorry. How can you be so calm about dying?" Venya was quiet for a moment, her gaze distant. "Because I was supposed to die on Celistar, with my family, with my people. But I survived the plague, and survival felt like punishment. When the traitors came, when they took me, I thought perhaps the universe was giving me what I deserved. Death, but away from home. My people believe that those who die off-world find peace, that our spirits can finally rest instead of haunting the ruins of our cities." The words chilled Marcus to his core. "That's why you didn't fight. You wanted this, not wanted, accepted." She looked at him, those amber eyes holding depths of sorrow he couldn't fathom. "There is difference." A loud clang from the cargo bay made them both jump. Marcus tensed, then relaxed as a familiar voice called out, "Webb, you here, or did the creditors finally drag you away?" In the med bay, Oren. Heavy footsteps approached, and a moment later, a stocky man with a braided gray beard and grease-stained coveralls appeared in the doorway. Oren Ketch had been Marcus's father's mechanic and had stayed loyal even after the old man died, working for deferred payment and the occasional bottle of decent whiskey. Oren's eyes widened when he saw Venya. "What in the seven hells did you do, boy?" "I made a mistake," Marcus said. "Or maybe the only right choice I've made in months. I'm not sure yet." Oren stepped closer, his experienced gaze taking in Venya's condition. Despite his gruff exterior, Marcus had always known the mechanic had a soft heart. "Cella Stari, haven't seen one of your kind in years, miss. You look like you've been through the ringer." "She's sick," Marcus said. "Dying. I bought her at auction, and I didn't know. You bought a person." Oren's voice was flat, disapproving. I know it was wrong. But they were going to kill her, Oren, render her for parts. I couldn't just." Marcus ran a hand through his hair. "I need your help. Both of us do." Oren was silent for a long moment, his jaw working. Then he sighed, the sound heavy with resignation and something like understanding. "Your father would have done the same damn fool thing. Probably have done it sooner." He looked at Venya. "What's your name, miss?" "Venya. Well, Venya, I'm Oren. I keep this bucket of bolts flying, and apparently I keep its owner from making entirely catastrophic decisions." Emphasis on entirely. He turned to Marcus. "There's a medic down on sublevel 9. Thesa Rourke. She used to work Coalition Medical before she got tired of the bureaucracy. Knows more about xenobiology than anyone else on this rock. If anyone can help, it's her." "I don't have the credits for a specialist," Marcus said. "Thesa doesn't work for credits. She works for favors." Oren stroked his beard. "And it just so happens you've got something she wants access to the restricted docking bays. Her girlfriend works customs. and they've been trying to get around the rotation schedules so they can actually spend time together. You've got clearance codes that could help with that. Marcus felt a flicker of hope. You think she'd be willing to see Venya? Won't know till we ask. But fair warning, Thesa doesn't do miracles. If the girl's as sick as she looks, might be nothing anyone can do. Venya spoke up, her voice stronger than before. Please, do not trouble yourselves. I have already caused enough. Stop. Marcus knelt in front of her, meeting her eyes. You haven't caused anything. You're not a burden, and I'm not giving up on you, so you might as well stop trying to convince me too. Something shifted in her expression, surprise, maybe, or the beginning of something deeper. Her hand, trembling slightly, reached out and touched his cheek. Her fingers were cool against his skin. Why? She whispered again, the same question from the docking bay. But this time, it carried more weight, more confusion, more desperate need to understand. Marcus covered her hand with his own. Because you matter, Venya. I don't care what your people believe, or what the slavers told you, or what you've convinced yourself. You matter. Tears finally spilled from her amber eyes, tracking down her blue-silver cheeks. She made no sound, just let them fall as if she'd forgotten how to cry properly. Oren cleared his throat awkwardly. Right. Well, I'll go calm Thesa, see if she's available. You too, do whatever this is. He gestured vaguely at them and retreated toward the cargo bay. Marcus didn't move, kneeling there with Venya's cool hand against his face, feeling her tears drip onto his wrist. After a moment, she spoke again, her voice thick with emotion. On Celistar, before the plague, I was supposed to marry. His name was Jorian. We were young, happy. Then the sickness came, and he died in the first wave. My parents, my sisters, my friends all died. I survived. For 3 years, I lived alone in the ruins, waiting for death to find me. When the traders came, I thought it was kindness, a chance to die somewhere new, somewhere without ghosts. I'm sorry, Marcus said, meaning it with every fiber of his being. I'm so sorry for what you've lost. I was dead already, Venya continued. Inside, I had died with them. I stopped being Venya and became just existence, breathing without living. When they sold me today, I felt nothing. I expected nothing. She paused, her thumb brushing across his cheekbone. But then you spoke to me. You asked my name. You called me a person. And suddenly, I remembered what it was to feel something other than waiting. Marcus turned his face, pressing a kiss to her palm. Then feel something, Venya. Feel hope. Feel possibility. Feel alive for as long as you can. She let out a shaky breath. I am afraid of dying, of wanting to live and losing again. Before Marcus could respond, Oren's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. Got hold of Thesa. She'll see Venya, but it's got to be now. She's got a narrow window before her shift. Marcus stood, gently taking Venya's hands and pulling her up. Can you walk? Yes, I think. Yes. They made their way through the meridian. Oren waiting by the cargo ramp with a wheeled med chair. Just in case, he said gruffly, but Venya shook her head. I will walk. If I am to try living, I should not begin by acting dead. Oren grunted approvingly. Got spine, this one. Come on, then. Thesa's place isn't far, but the sublevels can be rough. Stay close. The trio descended into Dust Heaven's lower levels, where the air grew thicker and the lighting more sporadic. These were the places where people came to disappear, to hide, or to start over. Thesa's clinic occupied a corner of sublevel 9, marked only by a small holographic symbol of a caduceus that flickered intermittently inside. The clinic was surprisingly clean and well organized. Medical supplies lined the walls, and several diagnostic stations hummed with quiet efficiency. A woman in her 40s with short auburn hair and sharp green eyes looked up from a datapad. As they entered, Oren, Webb, her gaze settled on Venya. Professional assessment immediate. And you must be the patient. Shelastari, late-stage cellular degradation, probably Cascade syndrome. Come, sit. Thesa's directness was oddly comforting. She guided Venya to an examination table and began running more sophisticated scans than anything Marcus had aboard the Meridian. The medic's expression remained neutral as data populated her screens. How long since the initial infection? Thesa asked. 3 years since plague, Venya answered. But I was immune. This is different. Started 6 months ago. You're not immune, Thesa said, fingers flying across her console. You're a delayed carrier. The plague mutated in your system, became something else. It's been eating you from the inside out, slowly, which is why you survived when others didn't. Your body was fighting it, but now, she paused, studying the readouts. Now you're losing. Can you help her? Marcus asked, his voice tight. Thesa was silent for a long moment. Maybe there's a treatment protocol experimental, technically illegal in coalition space. It involves nanophage therapy, basically using programmed cellular machines to hunt down and destroy the mutated plague cells. But it's expensive, painful, and only has about a 40% success rate. How expensive? Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer would be more than he had. 50,000 credits for the full course. The number hit like a physical blow. Marcus had 300 credits to his name. Even if he sold the Meridian, assuming anyone would buy a ship with a cracked manifold, he'd. The second treatment cycle hit Venya harder than the first. Marcus had moved her to the Meridian after Thesa assured him she could monitor her remotely. Through medical sensors, the ship's small crew quarters really just as quarters. Since he was the only crew, had become a makeshift recovery room. He'd given her his bed while he slept in the pilot's chair, and over the following days, he'd learned more about Venya than he'd learned about anyone in years. She spoke during her lucid moments, words tumbling out as if a dam had broken. About Celestar before the plague, when the cities glowed with bioluminescent architecture that her people had grown rather than built. About her childhood, swimming in the crystal lakes that reflected 3 moons. About Jorian, who used to paint her portrait using pigments made from crushed starflowers. We were going to have children, she said one afternoon, her voice distant. Marcus sat beside the bed, listening. 3, we decided. Enough to fill a home with noise and chaos. Celestari children glow when they laugh, did you know that? Their skin lights up, soft blue-white, like little stars. I always wanted to see my children glow. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Maybe you still will. She turned her head to look at him, her amber eyes thoughtful. With whom? I am last of my kind that I know of. The plague took everyone. And even if others survived, I am here, in the outer reaches, dying slowly on a freight hauler. But she said it without bitterness, just stating facts. You're not dying. Marcus corrected gently. You're fighting. And winning, according to Thesa's latest scans. A small smile touched her lips. Yes, fighting. It is strange, this wanting to live. I had forgotten how it feels. It is painful and wonderful together. The ship's calm chimed, and Oren's voice crackled through. Webb, you there? Marcus stood, squeezing Venya's hand before moving to the console. Here, what's up? Got a job offer. Small cargo run to the Perillian Station medical supplies. Pays decent. 3,000 credits for 2 days' work. But you'd need to leave tomorrow. Marcus glanced back at Venya. I can't leave her. Not while she's still going through treatment. Figured you'd say that. But Marcus, your creditors aren't going to wait forever. You need income or you'll lose the ship. Then where will either of you be? The reality of their situation crashed over Marcus. He'd been so focused on saving Venya that he'd ignored his mounting debts. The Meridian was still grounded with a cracked manifold, repairs he couldn't afford. His docking fees were 3 weeks overdue, and he'd already spent his emergency fund on supplies for Venya's care. I'll figure something out, Marcus said, but even he heard the uncertainty in his voice. There's another option, Oren said carefully. I could pilot the run. The Meridian's still flight-worthy for short hauls. I'd take 70% since I'm doing the flying, but you'd still clear 900 credits. Better than nothing. It was a generous offer. Most pilots would demand 80 or 90%. Oren, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Besides, someone needs to keep an eye on you to idiots before you starve to death making googly eyes at each other. Despite everything, Marcus laughed. We don't make googly eyes. Sure you don't. I'll come by in the morning to check the ship over. You just focus on the girl. After Oren disconnected, Marcus returned to Venya's bedside. She was watching him with knowing eyes. You have troubles because of me, she said. I had troubles before you. You're actually one of the few good things that's happened lately. I do not feel like good thing. I feel like expensive burden who cannot even stand without shaking. You're getting stronger every day. Thesa said the nanophages are working better than expected. Another week, maybe 2, and you'll complete the treatment course. Venya was quiet for a moment, then reached for the datapad Marcus had left on the side table. May I use this? Of course. What for? I want to show you something. About my world, my people. If I am to live, if I am to move forward, I think I must first show you what I am moving forward from. Marcus handed her the datapad and watched as she opened a drawing application. Her fingers, still trembling slightly, moved across the screen with surprising grace. Lines appeared, curved and flowing, building into shapes that gradually resolved into an image. A city emerged from her stylus, not the hard edges and sharp angles of human architecture, but something organic and alive. Buildings that looked like they'd been grown from crystal and coral. Bridges made of twisted vines thick as tree trunks. Towers that spiraled upward like seashells. And everywhere, lights off bioluminescence in blues and greens and purples, making the entire city glow like a dream. This is Suraveth, Venya said softly. The city where I was born. Before, Marcus stared at the drawing, captivated. It's beautiful. You're incredibly talented. On Celestar, everyone creates. Art is not separate from life, it is life. We grow our homes, sing our gardens into bloom, paint with living light. Her stylus moved again, adding details. This is the house where I grew up. My mother sang it into existence over 3 years, each room shaped by her voice, by her intention. It knew us, responded to us. When I was sad, the walls would warm. When I was happy, they would shimmer. Your mother sang a house into existence. Marcus tried to wrap his mind around the concept. Not like you think of singing. It is frequency, resonance, intention given voice. Celestari can manipulate certain biological materials through sound, through what you might call psionic projection. I do not know the right words in standard. She drew more people this time. Tall and graceful with skin in shades of blue and silver, their large eyes reflecting starlight. A couple holding hands, their bodies surrounded by a faint glow. This is me and Jorian, Venya said, her voice catching. On the night he proposed, when Celestari bond, we glow together. Our bioelectrical fields synchronize, creating light. It is how we know we have found our match. The light chooses, not just the heart. Marcus studied the drawing, seeing not just the technical skill, but the emotion behind every line. What happened to him? The plague started in the agricultural districts. Workers began dying within hours of exposure. By the time anyone understood what was happening, half the city was infected. Jorian was a healer. He went to help. He never came back. She paused, her stylus hovering over the screen. I tried to find him, searched the medical centers, the quarantine zones. I found him in a mass treatment facility, already gone. He died trying to save others. It was very like him. I'm sorry, Marcus said, inadequate words for a measurable loss. I held his hand even though he could not feel it, and I sang for him, the death song of our people. We believe the song guides spirits to whatever comes next. Venya's eyes glistened. Then I went home to my family's house, and they were sick too. My mother, my father, my 2 younger sisters, all infected. I tried to heal them with song, with touch, with everything I knew, but I was not strong enough. I watched them die, one by one, over 3 days. Venya, Marcus reached for her hand, but she gently pulled away. Let me finish. I need to say this, all of it, or I will never be able to. She took a shaky breath. After they died, I tried to die too. I stopped eating, hoping the plague would take me. But it didn't. I was immune, or so I thought. I learned later I was just a delayed carrier, that the plague was evolving inside me. For 3 years, I lived alone. The city grew silent. The bioluminescence faded and died without voices to sustain it. I watched Suraveth become a tomb. She drew again. The same beautiful city, but now dark, lifeless. The organic structures withering and gray. When the traders came, they wore protective suits. They scanned for survivors, found me. I thought they were rescue, that perhaps others had lived, that I would be taken somewhere safe. Instead, they took me to be sold. I learned what slavery was. I learned that in the wider galaxy, people are commodities. That I was worth 300 credits, less than your ship's fuel costs. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest, not at her but at the universe that had taken everything from her. Those traitors, the slavers, they should be prosecuted, imprisoned, should be, yes, but will not be. This is reality of outer colonies, yes? Laws exist only where someone enforces them. She set down the stylus. Her drawing complete 2 images side by side, before and after, light and darkness. I show you this not for pity. I show you so you understand what I carry. You are trying to save my body, but my spirit is still in Surveth, still watching my people die. I do not know how to live with this weight. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, looking at her drawings, at the tragedy rendered in simple lines and shading. Then he picked up the datapad and started a new blank canvas. What are you doing? Venya asked. I can't draw like you can, Marcus admitted, but I want to try something. He sketched clumsily, his lines rough compared to her elegant work, but gradually a shape emerged, a small ship among stars. This is the Meridian. This is where you are now. Not Surveth, not the past. Here, he added another shape beside the ship to figures, barely more than stick figures, but recognizable. This is us, here now, in this moment. You're alive, Venya, you're here, and maybe the weight of the past doesn't disappear, but you don't have to carry it alone. Venya stared at his crude drawing, and tears began to fall. I do not know how to let someone else carry it. I have been alone so long. Then learn, Marcus said gently. We'll learn together. The 3rd week after Venya's treatment began, Marcus woke to find her standing at the Meridian's viewport, wrapped in one of his shirts that hung nearly to her knees. Her blue-silver skin seemed brighter somehow, healthier, and she stood without the trembling that had plagued her before. You're up early, he said, stretching from where he'd been sleeping in the pilot's chair. She didn't turn from the viewport, her gaze fixed on something beyond the docking bay's transparent panels. I had dream about Surveth, but different. It was growing again, healing. The buildings glowed, and I could hear singing. She paused. I think it was my mind telling me I am healing too. Marcus moved to stand beside her, following her gaze out to where a few stars were visible beyond the station's artificial glare. Thesa said yesterday's scans were almost normal. The nanophages have done their job. You're going to make it, Venya. Yes, she said it with certainty now, not hope but knowledge. I am going to live, and I have been thinking what comes next. I am slave, legally, property, even healing. I am not free. The word hit Marcus like cold water. He'd been so focused on keeping her alive that he hadn't thought about what came after. Technically, she was still registered as his property in the station's records. The tracker implant was still under her skin. If authorities scanned her, she'd show up as owned merchandise. We'll get you free, Marcus said. There are ways. Black market documentation. Maybe passage to coalition space where we could claim asylum. That costs money you do not have. Venya interrupted gently. And time. Meanwhile, I exist in limbo, neither alive nor free. She finally turned to look at him. I have been thinking about this problem, and I may have solution, but you will not like it. Before Marcus could ask what she meant, the ship's comm chimed. Oren's voice came through, but there was tension in it. Marcus, we've got a problem. Big one. Get down to the dock entrance. Now, Marcus and Venya exchanged glances. I'm coming, Marcus said into the comm. What's going on? The slaver who sold Venya is here. Says you stole his property. Marcus's blood ran cold. That's impossible. I bought her legally. I have the transaction records. He's got two enforcers with him and a writ claiming fraud in the sale. Says she was supposed to go to render, that you interfered with a legal disposal order. He wants her back, Marcus. Or he wants 50,000 credits in compensation. 50,000. The exact amount Venya's full treatment would have cost. This wasn't coincidence. Stay here, Marcus told Venya, already moving toward the cargo bay. Lock the ship behind me. Don't open for anyone but me or Oren. No, her voice was firm. If this is about me, I should be there. Venya, I am not helpless anymore, Marcus. I am not dying, and I will not hide while you fight my battles. Her amber eyes were steady, determined. We do this together, or not at all. There was no time to argue. Marcus grabbed a small plasma pistol from the weapons locker mostly for show, since he'd never actually fired it at anyone, and they descended the cargo ramp together. The docking bay entrance was a 20-meter walk that felt like a kilometer. Oren waited there, his usually jovial face grim, flanked by 2 armed men and mismatched armor station enforcers, the private security force that maintained order in Dusthaven's legal gray zones. And between them stood a man Marcus recognized from the auction, a tall, weary human with augmented eyes that glowed faint red, and a smile that never reached those eyes. Garo Vex, the slave trader. "Ah, there she is," Garo said, his voice smooth as oil. "My missing property. You're looking much healthier than when I last saw you, little Celestari. Someone's been spending credits on you." "I bought her legally," Marcus said, positioning himself slightly in front of Venya. "I have the transaction records, the bill of sale, everything though." "I don't doubt you went through the motions of a purchase," Garo interrupted. "But you see, there's a small problem. That particular lot was earmarked for medical render under contract with Helix Pharmaceuticals. They paid a deposit, had first rights. You interfered with a contracted sale. That's theft, Mr. Webb. Commercial fraud. Very serious charges in Dusthaven. That's bullshit and you know it," Oren growled. "There was no mention of any prior contract at the auction, an administrative oversight," Garo said with a shrug. "But the contract exists. I have the documentation right here." He held up a datapad, signed and registered with the station authority 2 days before the auction, which means Mr. Webb's purchase was invalid. "The Celestari belongs to Helix, and by extension, to me as their contracted supplier." Marcus felt the trap closing around them. The documentation might be forged, probably was forged, but in a place like Dusthaven, whoever had the better paperwork and more credits for bribes usually won. And Garo clearly had both. "So here's how this works," Garo continued. "You can return the property now voluntarily, and I'll forget this unfortunate misunderstanding. Or you can refuse, at which point these fine enforcers will confiscate her anyway, and you'll face charges for commercial fraud. Could be looking at 5 years indentured labor yourself. Your choice." The 2 enforcers shifted, hands moving to their weapons. They didn't look particularly invested in the outcome, just hired muscle doing a job. Marcus's hand tightened on his own pistol, but he knew it was futile. Even if he could take all 3 men, which he couldn't, killing station enforcers would make him a wanted man throughout the outer colonies. "There's third option," Venya said quietly, stepping out from behind Marcus. "Venya, don't," Marcus started, but she silenced him with a look. She addressed Garo directly, her voice calm despite the fear Marcus could see in her eyes. "You do not want me for render anymore. You want money. This is about money, yes?" Garo's red augmented eyes studied her with interest. "Smart girl. Yes, it's always about money. Helix paid a substantial deposit for Celestari genetic material. When you vanished from my inventory, I had to refund them. Cost me dearly. But here you are, healthy and alive, worth considerably more than you were 3 weeks ago. So yes, little star, it's about money. How much?" Venya asked. "What is exact amount you lost?" 30,000 credits for the Helix refund, plus lost opportunity costs, administrative fees, and my time tracking you down. Let's call it an even 50,000. His smile widened. "The same amount someone's been spending to keep you alive. Interesting coincidence, isn't it?" Marcus's stomach dropped. Someone had been feeding Garo information about Venya's treatment, about the costs, about everything. The slaver had waited until she was healthy enough to be valuable again before making his move. "I can pay," Venya said. Marcus grabbed her arm. "What? How?" She looked at him with those amber eyes, and he saw both sorrow and determination there. "My people were artists, creators. We made things of beauty. And I have something very valuable, the knowledge of how to work with biological materials, how to manipulate living light, how to sing matter into new forms. There are people who would pay much for this knowledge. Researchers, corporations, collectors." "No," Marcus said flatly. "You're not selling your people's secrets. My people are dead," Venya said gently but firmly. "Their secrets die with me unless I share them. And if sharing them buys my freedom, perhaps that is what they would want. Perhaps that is how Celestari culture survives, not in ruins, but in knowledge passed forward." How touching, Garo said mockingly. But I don't deal in maybes and promises. I need credits, now, or the girl comes with me. Give me 3 days, Venya said. I will find buyer for what I know. I will get your 50,000 credits. But you must leave me here, unharmed. And you must sign legal release of all claims on me once payment is made. Garo laughed. 3 days for you to run? I don't think so. Then take this as collateral. Venya reached up and pulled Marcus's shirt aside, exposing her shoulder. The tracker you put in me, you can monitor me anywhere on station. I cannot run. And if I do not pay in 3 days, you can take me then. You lose nothing by waiting. The slaver considered this, his augmented eyes whirring as he calculated odds. What about Webb here? What's to stop him from taking you off station? You can lock the Meridian's docking clamps, Venya said. I have researched station procedures. You have that authority as contracted supplier with standing grievance. The ship does not leave until debt is paid. Marcus stared at her, realizing she'd thought this through, probably for days. She was negotiating her own freedom, using herself as collateral, gambling that she could find a way to pay. Garo stroked his chin thoughtfully. All right, I'll give you 3 days. But understand this, little star, if you fail, if you run, if you try anything clever, you're mine. And I won't sell you to Helix for render. I'll sell you to the flesh markets in the Scorpius sector, where you'll wish you'd died back on that auction block. Are we clear? Venya's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Clear, good. Garo pulled out a handheld scanner and keyed in commands. Docking clamps engaged on the Meridian. The ship's not going anywhere. 3 days, little star. 72 hours from now. I want 50,000 credits, or you're coming with me. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Webb, don't try anything heroic. You're being monitored too. Any attempt to break the docking clamps or leave the station will result in immediate confiscation of your ship and arrest. Have a pleasant day. The slaver and his enforcers left, their footsteps echoing through the